Let's just take a look at the human body.
The consciousness of mind,
From an engineering kind of standpoint.
not only animates the matter,
for as long as I can remember,
but is also present in the same matter.
I've always felt that my inside didn't match my outside.
Wow, the human body is amazing. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Truth Be Told. It's so fun to be here. This month is going to be a fun one. We are looking at a body of wisdom. We're looking at the human body. And this week we are talking about welcome to the temple. Because our body kind of is our temple. It houses our spirituality, our spiritual essence, and all of that. Mind, body, spirit. Very essential triune nature there. It follows well after last month when we talked a lot about emotions. That this is kind of the next step, is learning how to feel into our bodies, get create healthy relationships with our bodies, which quite often growing up and through culturization and all of that pop culture that kind of sometimes makes us have a unhealthy image or self-image around our body. And what's that about? So let's take a look at that. It's going to be a fun month. I hope you enjoy it. Welcome, and sit back and enjoy Truth Be Told.
So I've had a complicated journey with this concept of the body. So for my own personal story, for as long as I can remember, I've always felt that my inside didn't match my outside. The person who I saw myself as wasn't reflective in my physical body. And that created a lot of angst, a lot of turmoil, a lot of depression, anxiety, and everything in between, of constantly trying to fit in this scenario that didn't quite feel right. And so what I'm discovering, and this is from my own personal story, and this doesn't always happen, it happens differently for everyone, but for me, I become really keenly aware, especially of late, that I actually was born in the right body. And that body is a trans, non-binary body. And so the more that I began to really explore this idea that I was born in this specific iteration of who I am, inside and out, and who I am now, as my body is reflected inside and outside. This specific iteration of a body, in order to navigate this world emotionally, physically, spiritually. And so as I begin to kind of chew on this idea, I have felt more and more like I have come home to myself. Coming home, who I am on the inside, who I am on the outside, and how this iteration of a physical, emotional, and spiritual body called Ryan navigates life. And for me, it's been strangely expansive. This awareness that not only are we our bodies, but we're so much more than our bodies. And we talk about, we are a human, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. But I think it's all of it. It is this whole experience that we have. For me, this whole experience that I have had up until now and continue to have is this beautiful picture of wholeness, with the inside and the outside and everything in between. And so the more I'm resting in this understanding, the more that I appreciate my body in its current iteration, what it looks like right now. And you know what? I've worked pretty hard to get to this point. And so my relationship with the body has had its twists and turns. And I'm pretty excited at its current direction and the future possibilities.
It's nice to feel good in your body.
Yeah.
When it happens.
Yeah, I think I think oftentimes we take that for granted because there's a lot of folks that don't have that experience. And, sometimes I don't have that experience either. So I think it's important to highlight that and to the things that lead to that and the things that maybe are barriers to that too.
Yeah. It brought an interesting experience to mind. I was part of a community discussion the other day. It was a lot of fun. And one of the people in discussion brought up a lot of their world travels. And they had always tried to impress upon their kids that when their kids are older, which I guess at this point they are now, don't buy things, spend your money on travel. Mm. And at first it kind of poked this nerve in me like, wow, that must be nice. But there's a privilege in being able to travel regularly, right? That not everyone necessarily has the opportunity to do that, the lifestyle to do that, whatever, right? But what I realized was in what he was really saying, and I wish I had realized this during the conversation and not after, was one of the reasons he enjoyed traveling so much was because it got him in front of so many other people and so many other cultures and so many other ways of being that, at least this is the story I'm making up around. I think this is what he was getting at. This is what it meant for me, which was pretty cool, was being able to meet people of different life experience, meet people of different cultures, meet people of different countries, of whatever multitudes of, different kinds of people there are, whatever way we want to measure that or see that. I think there's a tendency that we want to just imagine the world, like everyone's perspective of the world must be our same perspective. Like ours is, either we haven't really thought about it and it's the only one we've thought of, or for some people, I think to go so far as that this is the right perspective, Yeah. But certainly one of the things that I've found is the more diverse experience I've had, the more I understand just a little bit, a tiny bit of somebody else's experience. And I think for sure, like, even in our group, even amongst the three of us or amongst the community that we're building, like, yeah, having a place where we all get to show up as who we are, in the body that we are. I've always identified as male, but even just having the opportunity to like, what does that mean? What do I actually like? It's not really something I had thought about, prior to a couple of years ago. And now it's like, oh, I'm pretty sure I know what I think that means. So, there's just such a value, to allowing ourselves to be around all kinds of different experiences. And it's not, not everyone has the same experience in so many different ways.
And that our expression of our body doesn't exist like just in this kind of 5 foot nothing sort of space, right. But our experience of our body goes out and comes back in. For me, at least, me navigating the world that may not be exactly set up in ways that would make it easier for me to navigate. And so that's the experience of my body. It's these constructs that are reflected back upon me. So it's more than just like the flesh, even though that's part of it, but it's this whole experience of having this space and this space emanating outward into all the other spaces. And just I've been, just interesting how it feels showing up and then being seen in those areas. It's interesting that the body is more than just this. Yeah. It emanates further than we think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. That's really, I think one thing that's really cool is, like Heart Math Institute, the more they're looking at like the waves emitted like by the heart, as well as, we've always known about like the brain waves, like with the EEG, but they're doing like more work around like the heart waves and just thinking about how they connect and interact with that same field of energy around other people. Between that, and then I was also looking into the idea of our bodies like picking up on cues from different, tests that they've done where they do like random images on a screen, and then, like start noticing like that the heart is sending signals about the image before it shows up. So that, this makes me wonder how much of that is the body sensing, how much of that is like intuition, or a higher sense of our mind, or is it together and all of that? Just thinking, really, it's pretty interesting how like the body waves do interact with other people as well, a physical interaction.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun month.
It's going to be.
It will be.
In other news, we have a problem. A hard problem. A really hard problem. The hard problem of consciousness. As noted in the peer-reviewed academic resource, the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and numerous other resources, science has a hard problem. How do we prove why anything is conscious? Where does consciousness come from? Consciousness marks a hard problem for science, or perhaps it marks the limits of what science can explain. There really is no way of answering this scientifically, at least not yet. But by no means is this a new problem. Consciousness, as the grounds for all being, has been a hot topic since before the days of Socrates. One explanation is known as idealism. We know consciousness is real because we are thinking. Then obviously everything that we can see and touch must be an illusion. Science, on the other hand, offers a different perspective. Newtonian physics suggests that since we cannot prove the existence of consciousness, then all that is just matter and matter reacting to itself. Certainly, this remains a hard problem to solve definitively. There is a core problem at the root of both of these worldviews. Idealism can't explain where consciousness comes from, and realism can't explain where matter came from. Alas, there is a third possibility. What if it is both? While many idealists like to think that quantum physics supports the idea that only consciousness exists, it actually supports a much older idea, that consciousness is immanent throughout creation. There is a greater thought that is not based on right or wrong, but cooperation. However, for many, idealism has become an appealing perspective. Only mind is real. I don't like what I see in this world, and so it must be an illusion. And yet, in doing so, we are missing out on a major aspect and importance of this life, actually experiencing the world in human form. Matter and mind are real and connected. The consciousness of mind not only animates the matter, but is also present in the same matter. In philosophies of oneness, this small detail becomes critical. It is too easy to speak and act from a perspective of heart and mind only and leave out the body, leave out the experience of the physical world. To truly believe in oneness, we must not only recognize the body as being real and important, but also recognize that it too is deeply connected to the spiritual world of the mind. It seems there is often an overemphasis on the value and importance of consciousness, you, the individual, as a conscious being. Or perhaps it is just an undervaluing of the body and physical experience. It is easy to say things like, we are spiritual beings having a human experience, with blatant disregard for the subconscious ramifications of these words. These words are very true, but leave out a thought of key importance. The human experience is the spiritual experience. In fact, the physical experience is the only way for the spiritual to have any experience. It would take an intentional retraining of our unconscious beliefs to view the physical experience, to view our bodies with equal importance. There is great wisdom available to us about this experience when we become attuned to our bodies. This has been In Other News. Thanks for watching.
Buddy Jesus. I love it.
I didn't know Jesus was going to make an appearance. I would have worn a different shirt if that was
right.
It.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I love the part that jumped out. I mean, it was a lot of parts that jumped out, but the main part was that idea that the spiritual experience can't be without the physical. That is the way that the spiritual experience is. And so don't we do that so much? We do this kind of we are spiritual beings having a human experience, which sounds great and it is accurate. Yeah. But sometimes it's with this kind of hint of, well, that means you need to ignore the physical and just focus on this. And so I think that, especially in Science of Mind teachings of wholeness, that it is all of that. And so we can't negate one for the other either way. It is a very interesting mix of the two, that one, kind of two sides of the same coin, like one cannot exist without the other.
And it's fascinating. It was challenging not to make this like an hour-long dissertation because there was so much that I wanted to get into. But like, it's really interesting to see how this school of thought was a reaction to this school of thought, was a reaction to and everything but the pendulum kept swinging to extremes. And so, to this day, at least in the United States, probably greater than that, we have like this war being waged between science and religion, and somehow religion, is code for like Christianity, basically. But like, it's the two can't coexist, and science, well, you can't prove God, and well, it's like faith and fact, and you can't have both. It's like that's kind of crazy.
What a beautiful way to what a beautiful feeling to look at them both, and that for me, that's like, that feels good. It feels better in my body. To hold them both that way. It gives me a lot, it's interesting. It gives me a lot, a gentler view of the body, and also a gentler view of the spirit part too. So it's very interesting. There was a moment there during that segment, I did have some nightmares of paradigms of consciousness class.
I try to keep it a little light.
Other than that, it was just on point for the how we need to hold both of those things together.
And I mean, back to your point about because even you had brought up we're spiritual beings in the human experience, and like that's just like a snippet so far out of context of the whole thing. And I think when it came about, it was, you can't just look at science, it has to be science, and because and now here we are, it's like I don't even want to say those words at this time in history because there's such disbelief in science. It's like, no, that's not what I mean, please. So I'm like, yes, science, please, science. And we have to recognize there's limitations to what science can do right now. And so there are still unanswered things that we can think scientifically about to, use some sort of logic and reason to be like, okay, yeah, well, something created this, like matter got here somehow, And so that phrase used out of context, and even like the quote itself, it's actually, the quote is twice as long as we even tend to use it, but because we've taken it out of context, like I think you were getting at, was it becomes used as this bypass to mean almost the exact opposite, I think, of how it first came about. Like, yes, science, and we're spiritual beings, so we need to look at the spiritual. It's like, yeah, and now we're a step further, and science, and we are spiritual beings, and all of like that. Both of those things are true about all of this too. It can't be just that one thing out of context as a means of bypassing the human experience. Like, no, please no.
Yeah, it's like, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
It definitely, makes me really think about, and it's kind of a sad thing, that we, by separating them, it's kind of like that spiritual part of us, like that's our reward, for all the suffering and the hard times that we go through here, just to tolerate this thing, and live by the word and everything. We have to do all this, and don't have any fun, but it's all cool because you'll get the reward. When you go into eternity.
Doesn't matter what
done yet, because you're still alive.
Right.
So eternity isn't really begun until you die, and then it does.
And like my question to all of that is, all right, well, what made, like, if God is within eternity and made that, like, then what? I mean, it just so quickly just falls apart, unfortunately. So it has to be both. Please let it be both. Allow it to be both.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, good stuff.
It is good stuff.
We would like to take a quick break from the program to let you know a little bit about SEC. We are an intentional spiritual community with a vision of personal transformation and communal evolution, an authentic way of being, living, and viewing the world. Everything you could ever possibly want to know and more can be found on our website at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. So come along for the adventure. Tuesday we have Truth Be Told at 7 p.m. Eastern, which is what you're enjoying now. Thursday, we have our small group, The Gathering, at 7 p.m. Eastern. And so this is a group experience where we take an even closer look at the topic for the week, how it shows up in our own personal lives, and the healing and transformative power of belonging and connection. On Sundays, we have Strip Down Sunday at 12:30 Eastern, where we offer a streamlined approach to your Sunday morning experience through a short and sweet talk on the weekly theme. And coming soon, our SEC Second Sunday Experience, a Sunday evening experience that will demonstrate a new way of doing community. Be on the lookout for these events and so much more. If you can't already tell, we have a blast here at SEC. It's so much fun to explore these topics with you each and every week. And it's our desire to not only share what we've learned, but to journey alongside each of you as we navigate this adventure we call life. Our vision is to bring these teachings to everyday life in new and powerful ways. If you would like to support the vision of SEC and its continued evolution, we invite you to go to soulevolutioncollaborative.org and click on the donate button. All donations are tax deductible and serve to support this evolving ministry and its vision of personal transformation and communal evolution. And now, back to the show.
I bet you didn't know that you could fill up your bathtub entirely with spit yourself. Actually, you could do that 500 times over the length of your life. Each day, the human body produces 6 cups of saliva. That's 3 pint glasses. Holy cow, that's a lot of spit. So, that aside, let's just take a look at the human body. Really, like from an engineering kind of standpoint. The human body is an absolutely amazing feat, that it is far beyond anything that mankind or humankind can create. It is quick, it's agile, it repairs itself when it gets injured, it's constantly updating itself, regenerating. Wow, the human body is amazing. It's also, as we just learned from last month, very great tool for interpreting our environment and our emotional environment as well. The way that it interprets and events in our life and lets us know what's going on through subtle feelings in our body. Hopefully last month has increased your awareness and ability to tune into those. So there's a lot going on in our body. So this month I think we have a great opportunity to take it one step further, to learn how to appreciate our bodies for the miraculous things that they are, exactly how they are right now in this time and this day. It really is amazing. Even if the body has been completely neglected all or most of your life, it is still doing amazing things for you all the time. And I really think that if we lean into appreciating it for what it is, lean into communicating with it, to responding to it talking to us talking to it, that we have the ability to increase our enjoyment of this physical world that we are in. I've heard doctors say that they think 80% of the illnesses that walk into their offices are caused by stress. I've heard other people say that amount is maybe closer to 90%. And that's all just what's going on in our mind related to our environment that then manifests in our body. So if we can learn how to tap into our body, to appreciate it, to how often when the body's talking to you, like we talked last month with the emotions, how often are we sitting down and really asking and feeling like, what is the body telling me? There's something there, there's some gifts there. And how often are you talking to your body, letting it know that you appreciate it, letting it know that you are grateful that it's managing the stress as well as it is. And then, learning different techniques of how to mitigate the stress, to reduce the harm and the impact that it has on our body. We have a lot of tools here. So sit back in for this whole month. I say tomorrow, or whenever you watch this, start paying attention to the way that your body feels. When you're completing tasks, look at how amazing it is that your hand, you're washing dishes, how it picks things up without thinking, how it does its job. And just amazing, like all the dexterity that our bodies have. Starting to appreciate that. Start also, taking a minute or two every day just to sit, maybe right when you wake up in the morning, and just feel. Sense the body, sense the hairs on your body, all the little subtle things. Feeling the sensation of that life force energy moving through you. As we get to really this month dive into the body and looking at how amazing it is, we've got a great opportunity to develop a better relationship with the bodies and see, try it for ourselves and see if in ways our physical well-being actually improves or just becomes more enjoyable. Let's see. It's going to be a fun month.
Dude, I'm gonna start spitting in the bathtub tonight. I'm gonna.
Yeah, make sure to plug it or you'll waste it all.
Oh yeah, that is a fact that's gonna stick with me. That one.
Yeah, I mean, like after that, I was like, oh, wow, that. I'm just teasing.
Yeah, no, it's good. I and the other one that stuck out with me too is that 80% of I don't remember the words exactly. 80% of doctor visits are stress related.
Yeah.
And, kind of makes me wonder how much how backwards we have it all. Like, what if the things that show up in the body were signals to us rather than the effect, right? Like something shows up in our body and we tend to think that is the thing that we need to go get treated. What if the thing and certainly yes, there's definitely things that show up that we get treated. But what if if there's a massive, a big issue that needs to get treated, that probably wasn't the first thing. What was the signal that we ignored, or, if we learn to kind of read and listen, how different would it be? And I think not just us as individuals, but even like the medical field too, right? Like even there, we have this division between mind, body, spirit, and science. It's like science says, but mind, body, spirit, right? What happens when those kind of meet up and play well together? I think that's a whole other whole other scenario.
And aren't we conditioned to ignore those signals? At least, I was. I mean, in playing like college sports, there was often times where we were like, instructed to take your body beyond that limit that you thought it could do.
Right. Yeah.
And over like long periods of time to do that. And so I think are conditioned often to ignore those signals, ignore those innate signals in our bodies that say tired, hungry, hot, thirsty, all the things.
Yeah.
Need tired, need to sleep, and because we are trying to do better, be better, look better, act better, anything better, that we sacrifice the perfection of what our body knows to do and tell us for that thing. And we see it. We see people working, exorbitant amount of hours, and where stress is a status symbol or exhaustion is something to be, is the sign of working hard and obtaining things. And all of that is at the expense of our bodies, which have this blueprint of telling us when we need to do things. And so, I think this month will be interesting. Getting back to listening to those signals will be a beautiful thing. Just for myself, it'll be a really good reminder to deprogram myself.
I have to share real quick that it brings back like nightmares of high school. That the whole, I mean, our whole perspective of athletics is built on that, right? Yeah. So in high school, we had a weight gym, and it was part of gym, part of phys ed, part of gym class was every like quarter or whatever, you'd rotate through different things. And one of them was you would go work out in the weight room. And of course, the weight room was supervised by like the football team, the varsity football coaches. And so they needed to make sure they were going to teach us how to do this correctly so we didn't hurt ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole premise of lifting weights is to break down your muscles to build them back up again, which is literally, you're literally injuring your muscles to rebuild them. And so you can't, you're supposed to like alternate days between upper body, lower body. All this like stuff. And it was years later in college for music school that I stumbled upon this. I don't remember the name of it or exactly where it's from, but it's an Eastern philosophy that basically is like the antithesis to extremism. And it's basically saying like, if you work 70% max all the time, you will be way more productive and get way more done or get there way faster or whatever than if you're trying to go like 100% all the time. Because at 100%, like with lifting weights, well, if I can only lift these weights every other day at 100%, or, like in football, 120%.
Right. Whatever that is.
Yeah. You're damaging yourself. But if you do it at 70%, if you work 70% maximum, you're not injuring yourself. You don't need to recover. And I was like, holy crap, man, that was a life-changing thing for me. And, lifting weights turned into like lifting drumsticks, but still it was like, wow, I can get so much more done practicing at 70% speed than trying to like push beyond my limits and practice poorly at really, really fast, and I just, wow, what an amazing concept. I think applies to a lot of different places. Like if we didn't push ourselves to the point, and I'm saying this for me out loud, maybe I'll remember this time. If I don't push myself to the point of exhaustion, I don't have to spend the next day recuperating,
Because there's no medal for exhaustion. I haven't received one yet.
All right. So here's an interesting fact that goes along with that.
Is it about spit too? Is it about spit?
No.
Okay.
No. It is about liquid though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Fluids.
Okay.
All right. So this is like the invention of the coffee break. I found this out researching, I think last week. And it happened in Denver. It was back in World War II, and it was at a tie factory. And normally it was young men that were making these ties. They were good at it, and they all got shipped off to war. Yeah, neckties.
Got it.
They're working looms. And so they brought in like the older men who spit facts. Reverend Chris appreciates it. But so they brought in older men and they weren't very good at it and making these ties. So then they brought in women, and women they brought in were really good at it, but they could only last about 4 to 5 hours, and then they would just like trail off. And so these business owners, were smart, and they, instead of like trying to create their own solutions, which everybody else does, they asked the workers like, what would help? They're like, we just need like a break or something, like, a few minutes to get off and get some coffee, just rest for like 15 minutes. And they tried it, and then like the production went up. They were able to work 8-hour days, and
we can exploit you even longer.
Yeah. There's like companies that like withhold, coffee breaks and stuff. Like, you're just draining your people. You're pushing them that 100%. Get them to that, 70% would be better. But
yeah,
it's pretty amazing how just that little, 15-minute break with a little bit of, a dose of caffeine and a little bit of rest, and you're like good to go for a whole nother 4 hours.
Yeah.
But yeah,
also interesting, like, how clearly so much of this just points out like we're not meant to be exploiting our physical labor or our mental labor for crazy long hours. Yeah.
They knew that for a while, and they've like really gotten away from it. We're like, we need to get back to that because we're killing people for not enough money.
What is enough money? Yeah,
I'll tell you when I get there.
Yeah, right. There you go.
Enough money, like what they say, the cost of living is always $100 more than what you make. Doesn't matter.
It's going to be an interesting month of learning, kind of reconnecting with our body. It sounds like it's like reconnecting with, and like all the stuff that we're talking about is like this kind of disconnect from. And so it's like basically, I think what we're going to be doing this whole month is just coming home to the body.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Which it has wisdom. It has wisdom.
It will tell us stuff.
It does.